Hello, everyone. Blue Star Saber here once again to do another Star Wars discussion. This time, I am discussing the Mandalorian season one, a sort of look back at review, if you will. Where in the upcoming movie for the Mandalorian Grogu, which I'm going to go watch, I decided to have a bit of a look back. We watched like the Mandalorians all three seasons, as well as the Book of Boba Fett. So I figured while doing that, after now let's see, watched one of the seasons, I figured why not take a look back at the show seasons and give a review and discussions on them. I could do individual reviews, but that'd take too long. So I decided to do season by season. And as I've now finished the first season, I figured I might as well. For those who do not know, The Mandalorian was the first of Disney Plus shows to come out when the streaming service first came out. And it came out during the time when the last of the Skywalker saga movies and the sequel trilogy films, The Rise of Skywalker, was coming out. In a sense, that show ended up being a sort of like a lightning rod for Star Wars fans to go to after, regardless of how they felt about the sequel trilogy, if you will, or for those who felt let down by it. As during this time, the Star Wars fandom had become completely divided after the events of the sequel trilogy and the choices made by, I guess, certain directors, if you will. But Jon Favreau, who's always been wanting to do, I think, a let's see, Star Wars TV show, maybe related to like Boba Fett, if you will, decided to convince them as trying to get in talks of getting with Disney to do a Star Wars TV show in live action based on Mandalorian culture, as he's been quite a fan. And as a result, went to Kathleen Kennedy, and as a result, she got him to partner up with Dave Filoni, who is regarded as, of course, the apprentice of the Padawan of George Lucas, if you will, and arguably the closest thing Disney has to a George Lucas, who is now arguably in charge of Lucasfilm. So, yeah, or at least co-in charge. So, yeah, it was a sort of a match made in heaven team up with someone as skilled and experienced as Favreau with someone with deep ties to George Lucas. Now, my understanding that the show sort of hold on. Let me just the show did let me just here we go. The show did this Favreau did this quite a new sort of inventive technology, if you will, of stagecraft, in which they were able to do some sort of video wall to do all the backgrounds. And I think the Mandalorian really pioneered in this technology. As a result, sort of did some innovation that not even the sequel trilogy show, if you will, sequel trilogy movies did. So yeah, you sort of had a bit of a I suppose you could say you sort of had a bit of a in some sense, the Mandalorian was spiritually spiritually successor to what Lucas always tried to do with each Star Wars trilogy, if you will. So but yeah, anyway, like I said, let's see, Jon Favreau pitched this idea to Kathleen Kennedy, got Dave Filoni involved. They did some production, and I think Disney Plus was starting, and Walt Disney, and I think Disney needed original shows on this new streaming service, such as they did WandaVision from Marvel, and for Star Wars they got The Mandalorian. And to be fair, for Star Wars, they've been for years they've been trying to get a live action TV show. For example, George Lucas wanted to do a very big, ambitious one called Star Wars Underworld. In a sense, it seems like its scale would have been that of Game of Thrones. Let's see, exploring the underworld, bounty hunters, like a sort of anthology series, if you will, similar, I guess, to the Clone Wars, but you explore the more darker sides, see the rise of the Empire. And there's all kinds of scripts. Apparently one that has a very sympathetic side to Palpatine, something about Darth Vader and Quillen Voss, and I think Saw Gerrera is originally going to be in the show. apparently 50 scripts were made, but unfortunately, it cost too much, and Lucasfilm and George would have to compromise with add things, which he wouldn't really want to do. So the show never got made. And of course, he sold it to Disney. Scripts and ideas from that show have, been, I think, sent to other Star Wars media like Saw Gerrera. But yeah. So basically, Disney's Star Wars has been trying to do a live action show for ages. It had more success in the animation, particularly with the Clone Wars. But then, of course, finally, Disney with the new streaming service, Disney Plus, Jon Favreau with the stagecraft technology was able to give him grounds for making a live action Star Wars show. I think it should be noted that perhaps Game of Thrones arrived a bit earlier with its high production value. We might have gotten the Star Wars Underworld show, but oh well. But yeah. But basically, the the Mandalorian follows its main character, if you will, the Mandalorian, or if you will, known as Din Djarin, if you will, as we find out in the 8th episode, where he's an infamous bounty hunter for a bounty hunters guild, if you will, working under the likes of I believe his name is where is he? Grief Kagura, if you will, where Mando is doing some tasks such as I believe capturing this blue alien Mandalorian. The Mothra, if you will. This guy here in the first episode for Grief Carve, but business is a bit slow, so eventually Grief Kara gives him to this guy here. The client, if you will, who with this sort of scientist character as tasks for the Mandalorian to find this Etsy target. During this, he meets see the share screen. I've pressed the wrong one. Where the client if you will, hires him to retrieve this sort of asset, where he ends up meeting I think I might have I keep pressing the wrong share screen. Oops, no. Where he meets Ugnaught Killy, who has the very famous, memorable line of "I have spoken," as well as a IG-11 assassin droid, who is also targeting the asset, but it turns out to be this child of Yoda's species, which everyone likes to call to as Baby Yoda, but later is found out to be Grogu in the second season, if you will. The IG-11 droid tries to kill him, but Mando spares him. His ship gets stolen parts by Jawas, and has to try and get them back with the help of Keely for the deal to try and retrieve this egg from a rhino-like race called Mudhorn. The Djarin is almost killed, but Grogu saves it. But as a result, he takes it back to the client. He gets his rewards, in which is Beskar material, which you have. Let's see, where is the. Let's see which this character here, the armorer, who appears to be the sort of leader of the the group that Mandalorians Djarin belongs to, where he's also ends up having to deal with this Muscle One Paz Vizsla, who does not like the Empire. Let's see. is able to like keep the peace, but the armorer notes that you killed a Mudhorn, you should get the symbol, but Din Djarin does not think it's like was a clean kill and was saved by an enemy who did not know it was an enemy. And you can see that during this time, Mando has come to really care for Grogu. So he ends up betraying the guild and stealing Grogu back from the child, if you will, back from the Empire. As a result, he's now on the run while his fellow Mandalorians cover him. During the course of this next few episodes, he tries going in hiding, particularly one in a farmer's world, and meets some Cara Dune, an ex-rebel gunner, if you will, who was a survivor of Alderaan. Teaching farmers to defend from a bunch of raiders, if you will. Then, of course, Mando meets. It goes to Tatooine to meet Peli Motto, some sort of repair woman with a few of. I'm trying to remember the names of those droids, but pit droids, if you will. Who Mando has a very bad history with droids. As a result, doesn't trust them, given the fact that his family was killed by separatist super battle droids, if you will, and as well as teaming up with some amateur bounty hunter to try and take down Fennec Shan, who ends up revealing. The bounty hunter's name, I believe, is Toro Calican, who wants to try and make a name for himself, but she persuades him that Mando would give him far bigger prize, but he ends up shooting Fennec Shan, supposedly leaving her for death, if you will. But as a result, he sort of has Toro Calican betrays Mando, but gets shot as a result and killed by Mando. When he tries to harm the child. And the next episode, you end up having Mando sort of going on a heist with this sort of ex-Imperial Migs Mayfield, as well as a few others that Mando used to work with, but end up they double-crossing him when it turns out the prisoner help is apparently someone that Mando abandoned. So, but yeah, eventually leading back to Grief Kara, calling Mando to help him try and get rid of the Imperials occupying the planet, where he ends up recruiting his friend Cara Dune, trying to deal with them, as well as Keely to look over the child, who is revealed to have repaired IG-11. They at first it's Grief Kara going to betray Mando, but after being saved by Baby Yoda, you sort of have he agrees to help take down the client, but who contacts his employer, which reveals to be this guy here, Moff Gideon, who was an Imperial who apparently who laid siege to Mandalore, causing the Night of 1,000 Sufferings or something, slaughtering many Mandalorians. As he kills the client, our group fights to survive, but Keely ends up being killed. IGN-11 sort of saves Mando, if you were, sort of saves the child, and Mando's life, allowing him to finally start trusting droids again, and learns from the forger that, or the armor, if you will, that most of the Mandalorians that were hiding here have been wiped out, and that Grogu is from a enemy group of sorcerers called Jedi, and it's his task to try and retrieve and to bring him back to his kind, if you will, or if he becomes of age. As a result, they become a clan of two, and he gets a jetpack. IG-11 ends up sacrificing himself to save the group, and Djarin supposedly defeats Moff Gideon, with Grief Karg offering both Cara Dune and Mando to help Ritzy rebuild the planet and make it a more respectable thing, since he was, I think, a former magistrate or something. But Mando realizes he has the tasks of finding Grogu's kind, if you will, and flies off with him. But Moff Gideon's revealed to survive, and let's see, wields the legendary dark saber, which is the symbol of leadership for Mandalorians. So yeah, arguably it's a very good first season. Arguably, arguably each episode, it's like, except for the last two, is like its own individual story, with the last two episodes being sort of like two-parters, if you will. Let's see. But arguably, you could the first three episodes make a story arc of Mando's job of like hunting for like Grogu or the child, and bringing it back to sort of like the Imperials, but has a change of heart and wants to say it, and decides to protect Grogu, with the next three episodes being him on the run, trying to see all these kinds of jobs and missions to make sure they survive, as well as introducing a bunch of characters that will become important later down the line in the next season, the Book of Boba Fett, and even season 3, depending on which character, if you will. Some last longer than others, but I won't get into the details of that. But yeah, so you have that, and the two-parter is where where Mando comes together with a bunch of his allies to try and deal with the client, as well as dealing with the true bad guy, Moff Gideon, down the line. Arguably, this was a very good, solid start for the first season. Baby Yoda caught the wave by storm of just how adorable he is. Arguably, it's like the ultimate marketing mascot that Disney ever had created for Star Wars. And apparently, this was so well secretly done. It was not in any of the trailers. No one saw it coming. And it's basically surprised everyone. And not even merchandise was made, which apparently might have cost Disney a bit of money to at first for delaying the merchandising for like the child or Grogu or Baby Yoda, if you will. But once it's done, it was quite successful. In many ways, Disney had managed to find an investment on Star Wars after like the sequel trilogy had divided the fan base. This first season seemed to have brought it together. And you can see with like how the season had many references to other Star Wars things. For example, the dark saber with like the Clone Wars. Super battle droids for the prequel trilogy. You had some mentions of like Gungans and Canto Bight in episode 6, with Mayfield's character mocking like Din Djarin and all that. You had a bunch of original trilogy aliens, such as one of the ones that was with in the heist, if you will, or the prison break episode, where was one of those devilish Devon species who turned out to be a very muscular dude, as well as like you've got like two Twi'leks, one of them being like apparently possible ex-girlfriend for Djarin, and you have of course her brother, who apparently Mando abandoned. So yeah, let's see. The show ended up being the first season ended up being, I think, directed by a bunch of well-known directors, if you will. I believe they are. Dave Filoni ended up directing 2 episodes. Being his like live action debut, if you will. You also had like I believe you had Deborah Chow, who'd go on to do Obi-Wan Kenobi. Bryce Dallas Howard, Taka Waititi. They also directed a few episodes of the first season, if you will. So yeah. Arguably, you had like quite the famous cast of characters, if you will, or directors. In terms of like the best characters, arguably you'd probably definitely be Mando, of course, who starts off as a mercenary who comes to like care for like Grogu as like a sort of adopted father, if you will, even though Grogu is 50 years old. So showing that just how showing just how old Yoda's species is, that arguably for the first 50 years of his life he was either like a baby or young child. But yeah, and Let's see. There's also like the sort of little mini arc he has of disliking droids due to his history with the Separatists, but coming to trust them after Keely, um, sort of like Keely reprogrammed IG-11. It saved his life. Cara Dune was a pretty bad, arguably a badass, warrior woman, if you will. Well, I mean, I do like how you got with her. She was quite different from what you usually see with Star Wars female characters, if you will. Rather than being like a skilled Jedi or a political senator, she's more of like a shock trooper. So that was a nice addition. And was arguably at one point the most recurring character in the Mandalorian sidecast. Mayfield with his being like the sarcastic gunslinger, if you will, clashing with Mando. That was also fun for the one episode he was in this season. Let's see. I do like you've got like Grief Karga, who was like Mando's sort of business partner, who seemed to then became enemy, but then became friend again after Grogu ended up saving his life. I will say there's perhaps one controversy with the fact that Grogu could do a Force heal thing, which arguably, granted, that was probably to foreshadow what the sequel trilogy could do with Rey down the line, but many people if this ability exists, then Anakin should have been taught, but been made aware of that the Jedi could do this. That way he could always there's a power to save his wife Padme, but I don't know. Either only a select few individuals can do it, or it's a technique that was lost, but seems Grogu learned it somehow. But yeah, I don't know, but yeah. So so you had that, and IG-11, being a very cool droid, which taking down multiple assailants, and also has the quite noble self-sacrifice, and even Keely, who has the memorable line of "I have spoken," which it's very sad when the character sort of ends up dying, if you will. Arguably, it's a very memorable cast of characters, big and small. Maybe there's one or two that you might consider forgettable. For example, the one who Toro Calican, who wants to make himself a bit of a legend. Arguably, he's probably the most forgettable character, but he's only a one-off one, really. And who wanted to try and hunt Fennec Shan, who you think is dead, but is teased that she might survive for a later season, though. This might be more of a criticism of Star Wars keeping characters alive who shouldn't be, or at least don't put them in a position where you think they're dead. But yeah. Arguably, I'd say for the first season, I'd say the best episodes would probably be the Sin, where Mando, after delivering Baby Yoda, if you will, starts to regret these actions and goes to try and save him. The Prisoner, in which you got that sort of heist episode where Mando is with a gritty rough tag of crew, with a bunch of crewmates who then eventually double cross him and he has to take them down one by one. And Redemption, in which I believe you have the group trying to survive, and then you had also IG-11's noble sacrifice, which arguably gets undermined in a later season, but still. Other than that, I definitely say though I would also say the first episode of The Mandalorian, in which you're introduced to Din Djarin, and The Reckoning are also very good episodes, I would also say. With how you get introduced to the Mandalorian, his character just before he meets Baby Yoda, and as well as The Reckoning being quite the suspenseful moment at the particularly its later half with Moff Gideon's arrival and Killy's dead, and even the sort of fun adventure you have with Mando chasing Jawas and then trying to get his parts back, and then dealing with the Mudhorn. I definitely say the weakest episodes I'd say of this season would probably be let's see, the gunslinger, as I think that the, let's see, ally turned antagonist of Tarkin is perhaps the most forgettable villain of the series. And I suppose the fourth episode of The Sanctuary, where arguably we sort of rehashed sort of an episode of the Clone Wars, if you will, where you got like main characters teaching bunch of farmers to help fight and defend the village, their village, if you will. But nevertheless, I'd say this season's good. There isn't really no bad episode. At worst, they're probably like a 7 out of 10 for the lowest episodes, and the best either 9 or 10 out of 10 episodes. So yeah, arguably, yeah. Which if I had to give a score for the first season, it'd definitely be a 9 out of 10. It's not perfect, but it's a very good start for the show and the series. And arguably, it came out at just around the time where Star Wars fans felt deluded with the films, so it gave people hope that maybe its future would be in television. I'm not going to say down the line of that, and the show was arguably successful enough that it allowed for a bunch of spin-offs of the Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew. So yeah, shows related to that, as well as one of the directors of this season was allowed to also direct Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you will. So and arguably this show is also now going to have some films like arguably The Mandalorian and Grogu this year, and maybe this untitled Dave Filoni one that's supposed to be Heir to the Empire, but that might be put on hold now that he's in charge of Lucasfilm. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how well The Mandalorian and Grogu does. I'm not going to give my thoughts on that there, but yeah. So yeah, arguably a very good first season, 8 episodes ranging from like 30 to 40 minutes, really, if you will. It was a sort of like good dive into like the Mandalorians, like the sort of group that Boba Fett's armor is based off of, if you will. So granted, George Lucas doesn't really associate Boba Fett and Django as Mandalorians, but just using their armor. But the fandom always refers to them as Mandalorians, and this show gave us a good deep dive into them, if you will. That arguably, the Clone Wars did a little bit of that, and you can see some sort of differences if you watch both shows, such as like the Mandalorians here refuse to like let anyone see their faces or remove their helmets in public, if you will. Like Din Djarin, and you don't even see Pedro Pascal's face for the Mandalorian until the last episode when IGN has to try and heal him, and he's like basically a droid, so not an organic. So you have that, and you have this group that say this is the way, which seems to that no other Mandalorian group we know does this. Though granted, we only see Death Watch, and you see a bunch of Death Watch, ironically enough, here. And of course, the Darksaber leaves some sort of mystery and intrigue for like future seasons. Yeah, good season. Brought in many stuff that let's see fans like about the Mandalorian lore, such as Beskar armor, which is apparently armor that not even lightsabers can damage. So, but yeah. You get to see just how powerful like a Mandalorian is that isn't like Boba Fett or Jango Fett. So arguably, in some ways, Din Djarin is what many people wished Boba Fett would be. So yeah, that was one aspect of this show. So yeah, a 9 out of 10 show, and I definitely would say if you're excited for the upcoming Mandalorian Grogu film, I would recommend rewatching this season like I did just to be prepared for it. But anyway, I've gone on long enough now. And yeah, for those who ended up listening to this ritzy quick review or look back review, if you will, I hope you enjoyed what I had to say. But I need to leave now, so goodbye. I'm Blue Star Saber signing off. May the Force with you, and I'll see you next time when I hopefully finished watching the second season. So yeah, but yeah, I am off now. So goodbye.